not sure that he's necessarily going to learn.
I think
no, that's a good point, isn't it? Because he didn't look like that. I mean, this expression on his face tells a good story here. You know, he's meaning to do that to wind him up.
No. The funniest thing was when Mancini was asked about the Balotelli situation. He did a Wenger, didn't he? He said, "No, I didn't. I don't want to comment because it was always Balotelli's fault." And then someone explained to him what had gone on. He said, "Oh, that's okay then. We'll send him to jail."
When he said he didn't see it, he's in the middle of every picture.
He's in the middle of it. He's pulling people apart.
He can see it. He doesn't know what's going on. I mean, we don't know, whether they've been winding up Balotelli during the game. I suspect if you're a United defender or even a fan, you'd know that Balotelli reacts. You'd wind him up, wouldn't you? Would Rio and Vidic have been winding him up? Think, hang on a minute, this guy is volatile. We've seen him get a silly red card this season already. So they may have been winding him up.
But he didn't respond to anything during the game, though, did he? If he was winding them up, there wasn't an initial trigger, though.
Which is maybe why, the perfect time to respond to it, he thought, right, well, I'm not going to get wound up during the game, but then they win at the last minute. What's he going to say to Ferdinand if he's been... I mean, I don't know that, but you would not be surprised if they'd been niggling him all game.
If you were playing against him, you'd niggle him.
You'd niggle him, yeah. And then if I'd been beaten, I'd expect him to say to me at the end of the game, who's laughing now?
Yeah, that's right. Andy mentioned silly red cards, but Paul Scholes, 10th of his career, it was a definite red card.
Do you know what it reminded me of? 11 years ago, England had a game against Sweden. Hacken-Milt. And it was, I remember in the mixed zone afterwards, Hacken-Milt was hobbling out, and he called the English journalist over and sort of rolled up his sort of tracksuit leg just to show us the Scholes stud marks. Scholes has been one of the greatest players over the last 15 years. He's a fantastic footballer. The passing, the shooting, the timing of the runs, the little dink passes around the corner, everything about it. Magnificent role model, but he cannot tackle. And there is a side to his game, as you say. It's his 10th red card, and I just think it's a pity because he needs to be remembered. In the twilight of his career, what a fantastic player he is, and he doesn't need to do something like that. Whether it's frustration, I don't think it's bad timing. I just think that was just a bad nasty challenge.
Well, don't forget, Arsene Wenger did say a couple of months ago when everyone was paying tribute to Scholes, he did say there's a darker side of Paul Scholes, didn't he? It was a comment that got quite a bit of reaction. He did say there's a darker side of him I don't like. I mean, we tended to write off all these red cards for Scholes as he can't tackle. He's the worst tackler in the Premier League. You look at that tackle yesterday and you think, well, actually, that wasn't just a bad tackle. That was a bit nasty. And I totally agree with Henry. What a fantastic player. And wouldn't it be sad? I actually thought yesterday, and they had the pictures of him going sort of quite disconsolately down the tunnel. I actually thought, wouldn't that be really sad if that's the last we see of Paul Scholes? Because,
there's no reason why we should, though.
I mean,
the way he's played this season.
If they reach the Champions League final, would he play him in the Champions League final?
No, absolutely not. I don't think he would. Why would you risk Paul Scholes knowing that you could, at any stage in the game, go down to 10 men?
Right.
Would you risk him in a big game?
I disagree. I think.
Would you risk him in a big game?
Yeah, no. I think the downside of Paul Scholes, which is the tackle and the potential red card, which happens once every other season. Yeah. I just think that he still has so much to offer, and I'd be amazed if he doesn't get another year's contract.
He came on against Arsenal in the FA Cup. I think United were 2-0 up and cruising, and he did his best for 15 minutes to get himself sent off there. If you remember, I just think Ferguson, might think, hang on a minute, if I play him in a big game, so he's going to save a 3-game ban now.
Yeah.
So we only have 3 more games in the Premier League. They may be crucial, and then Champions League. And do you think then?
But sorry, who's your replacement? Carrick had 2 terrific games against Chelsea. Was poor yesterday. Anderson is still coming back to fitness. Okay, he's played Giggs in there, and Giggs has been very good in it too. They desperately missed Fletcher. I think it might have been slightly different yesterday. Fletcher had been in, and Ferguson was saying on Friday that he's 2 to 3 weeks away. I think it's very dangerous to write off any Manchester United, and don't write off Paul Scholes.
I'm just suggesting it did cross the mind there, because then you think, when it comes to the summer, I mean, Scholes is 37, I think, in November. And he hasn't really committed yet, has he?
I have to say,
he's actually had a pretty decent season. Yeah. I don't think you can write him off.
I take Henry's point about what Paul Scholes brings to the table, but I also take Andy's point as well, because I think there is a kind of liability about Paul Scholes when he goes there. And if you looked at the tackle, it was completely reckless, wasn't it? I mean,
it was.
There was no excuse.
There was an I hate City in that tackle.
You couldn't excuse it and say it was badly timed. I mean, he recklessly went in and did the play.
Do you think that Fergie got his team selection wrong yesterday?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, one up front, Berbatov, he had Hernandez.
Yeah, I mean, I would have played Berbatov and Hernandez. Yeah. And then played 2 wide men in Valencia and Nani. I mean, I don't see. and then either Carrick and Park or Carrick and Scholes, or two of those three in the centre, and gone 4-4-2.
It was interesting
because it was interesting that City were quite nervous. Man were quite hesitant to start with, which is when Berbatov got his chances.
Well, Berbatov should have scored.
Probably should have scored. But certainly taken one of those two chances. And I thought that United, by just going with Berbatov, up front, once he missed those chances and then he got a bang on the nose as well, didn't he? His sort of, as happens, his shoulder sort of sloped, and I just don't get.
But Ferguson has traditionally over the last few years has played one up in the big games because he doesn't want to be outgunned in midfield, and City obviously play almost that, so the 2 and the 3 in midfield. It's different this season because he's had Rooney playing in the hole, which Rooney sort of drops back and may eventually take that Scholes role in the future, and it works fantastically with Hernandez. But how much they missed Wayne Rooney yesterday?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you could argue that the moment they lost that was at Upton Park, whatever, 4:30 the other Saturday.
It was ironic in the Champions League game against Chelsea that what United did and did very well was nullify the midfield, wasn't it? Because Chelsea pushed on forward from the midfield, and it was almost like a reverse yesterday with City doing the same and bossing the midfield after the first sort of 25 minutes had gone. They kind of sort of took control of the midfield in a way.
It was interesting to see Rooney sitting there, living the game. He was up on his feet and jumping and thinking Berbatov should have scored, and then he sunk to his thing. But it was interesting. He was actually on the bench. But should he have been sitting there or not on the bench when you're suspended?
Well, it's a strange bench because it's almost a sort of two-tier bench. So maybe there's the naughty step bench at the back, which he's allowed to sort of is allowed to sort of. But I like that about Rooney. I just think that it just shows the camaraderie. It shows what a team player he is. You saw it when he got taken off in his early stage when he was playing for Everton. He was standing at the back of the dugout, bouncing up and down, willing the team on. I thought that was a good sign.
Yeah, but it's always about ifs and buts, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, when